Crypto-related crime is no longer limited to online hacks. Across the world, criminals are turning to physical violence, abducting crypto holders and coercing them into handing over their digital assets. Known as wrench attacks, these cases are on the rise, affecting not only high-net-worth individuals, but a growing number of smaller, less protected crypto holders. As law enforcement and regulation lag behind, the risk environment is shifting fast. Exploring the key risks and how individuals are responding, here's our Head of Intelligence, Mark Overington.
The theft of cryptocurrency, often in the tens and hundreds of millions, is widely reported on, but that typically tends to be in the cyberspace. It's often linked to state actors as well, not just criminal actors, exploiting cyber vulnerabilities to pilfer large amounts of cryptocurrency. What I'm referring to here is crypto kidnappings, or more informally known as wrench attacks, which are abductions and forms of violent coercion aimed at extracting access to cryptocurrency or crypto, which not only represents a growing threat to all digital asset holders, not just high-value net worths, but is also a threat that is not bound by any geographic restraints. Despite crypto being a digital asset, the primary vulnerability here increasingly lies in the physical world with the use of violence. Violent criminals are essentially bypassing technical barriers and targeting individuals through violence, with physical coercion replacing cyber intrusion as the primary method of theft. Although I will have to stress that targets are often first identified and developed online prior to physical attacks. For context, the term wrench attacks originates from a comic book in 2009 that joked, instead of hacking the encryption, just hit them with a $5 wrench until they give up the password. It's a slightly more organized version of this, but that pretty much sums it up. The nature of these attacks involve forcing victims to hand over crypto credentials, such as login keys, seed phrases, under physical duress. Once that access is granted, funds can be transferred instantly and anonymously without the need for much technical skill, essentially paving the way for violent criminal organizations lacking in cyber expertise to steal large amounts of crypto. And this is such an emerging threat that kidnapper and ransom insurers and private security firms are actually establishing bespoke services purely for crypto holders, which clearly reflects a growing recognition of this threat. If we just circumvent the fact this is large amounts of money, there's a lot of other vulnerabilities that can be exploited here and benefits. So they're primarily attracted to criminals due to their pseudonymous nature. They're not anonymous. That's a misconception. There is some form of identifier linked to a wallet. And once that is attributed to a person, it makes the physical attack relatively easy. They're also decentralized and the transactions are irreversible. So essentially, once criminals obtain access via seed phrases, private keys or loggings, that crypto can be moved incredibly quickly, laundered incredibly quickly, and most importantly, sent to multiple jurisdictions, many of which are way beyond the jurisdiction of law enforcement. The fact that they're decentralized and there's no centralized authority governing this or any third-party intermediaries like banks, crypto theft can also circumvent these additional layers of security, which you'd have with normal financial instruments. Effectively, ownership is really defined by who holds the private key, and that's essentially all they really need. Unlike cash, jewelry, or a lot of other assets, what is stolen today will, by most estimates, be worth much more in the future, unlike other assets like cash, which often depreciate over time. For context, Bitcoin more than doubled between 2004 and 2025. It's the highest return on investment in human history, and a lot of the alternative coins, known colloquially as altcoins, have followed a similar path. What's also key here is public interest in crypto has grown rapidly. An estimated 200,000 crypto millionaires now exist in 2024, that estimate's from, suggesting that number has almost certainly increased in 2025, given the doubling of Bitcoin alone. And what this essentially has done has created a new, almost sudden and experienced cohort of millionaires, many of whom, and this is evidenced in many of the examples, have never required or even considered traditional forms of physical security or executive protection, leaving them, but critically too, their family or other affiliates like business colleagues, acutely vulnerable to these physical attacks or wrench attacks. And then finally, as this is such an emerging financial instrument, governments and financial institutions don't really oversee this like they do with other assets, but they are accelerating efforts to impose stricter oversight and controls on the crypto industry writ large, such as the United States, for example, is creating a dedicated crypto task force. A lot of our companies are increasing their KYC, so know your client or know your customer requirements. So from a criminal perspective, now really is sort of strategic window of opportunity to conduct these attacks before regulation and countermeasures are hugely accelerated. The bottom line up front is multiple cases involve violent criminals using techniques ranging from intimidation all the way through to torture to extract millions from victims. So I'll just go over one example. And this Italian national Michael Curitan was living in Manhattan in an upscale townhouse of about $40,000 per month rent. He'd spoken quite openly about his involvement in the crypto industry, which obviously identified him. And then two criminals broke into his house and held him captive for 17 days and ultimately managed to steal $28 million worth of crypto from his wallet. That's just one example. Many of these other examples involve threats to individuals, to their family members, not just wives, but children, parents, all have involved extreme violence. There's also been several examples of people associated with the crypto industry being targeted, such as influencers, entrepreneurs, CEOs of crypto firms, crypto brokers, and this sort of extends to their family members as well. But what we're increasingly seeing is smaller holders of a less sort of prominent online profile also being targeted. Most of these cases are actually typically happening in jurisdictions not typically seen as high risk for violent crime, like kidnapping, such as the UK, France, and Canada. So this makes them increasingly more accessible to violent criminals, more vulnerable, and they're often unprepared targets. Like I say, don't have those countermeasures in place, such as executive protection. And in most of these cases, the holders or victims were targeted because they were well known in the crypto space, but also because criminals had done that sort of online development of targets previously, exploiting both operational and cybersecurity vulnerabilities. And then the final point here is in most of these cases, it involves some sort of hierarchical direction. What I mean by that is the sort of online profiling and online targeting is conducted by a more organized criminal network, say in somewhere like Morocco, that's a lot more tech savvy, but the actual abduction and attacks are then outsourced to local youth or street gangs, say like on the streets of Paris. Now, these groups are clearly motivated by the promise of a lot of financial gain, but compared to more organized criminal outfits, often lack the discipline, making their actions often a lot more erratic and potentially far more prone to violence. Before I go to countermeasures, you first have to explain how they're identifying holders of crypto first and foremost, and there's lots of different ways to do this, and these techniques can be layered together to provide a more comprehensive strategy. The first point really is crypto is, especially not if it's on like an online exchange, it is not anonymous, it's pseudonymous, which means all they really have to do is attribute a wallet to an individual person or group of people, and then once that link is made, then that cues on the sort of physical attacks. Broadly speaking, one of the issues is public exposure. Like I mentioned before, a lot of these people are influencers, conference speakers, business leaders associated with the crypto industry. They are accessing crypto data via cybercrime and data leaks, getting personal data from exchange breaches, phishing attacks to enable that targeting. There's been cases of insider leaks where workers have been bribed, will then leak user data, profiles, and even wallet contents to criminal actors. Criminals are going through social media and other forums that identify any sort of evidence of large holdings of crypto. People often inadvertently reveal their crypto holdings in these forums or post things with metadata that can be scrubbed. There's also a lot of lifestyle indicators and unexplained wealth. Individuals have gone from nothing to then posting pictures of luxury goods, cars, etc. Increased use of blockchain forensic tools. Now, this is originally developed for compliance use, but these could be bought on the black market and can help trace wallet activity and attribute identities. And then last but least is just assumption. Criminals are just assuming that people have large amounts of crypto based on their pattern of life, activity, and what they may divulge publicly or not. When these techniques are layered, it can really help identify these individuals in the physical space.
That concludes this episode of the Global Risk Podcast. For further insight, including case analysis, targeting methods, and practical security measures, you can read the full intelligence report at solaceglobal.com. Thank you for listening.